Good evening, everybody. I'm Mark Biscone. I'm President and CEO for ACHE Southeast Texas chapter, and I also do quite a bit of consulting work in a lot of other organizations, some of which are right here in the Med Center. My co-presenter this evening is Kevin Long, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mark. My name is Kevin Long, and I am a department administrator in pediatrics patient care at MD Anderson Cancer Center. Pleasure to be with you all tonight.
And Kevin also helped co-develop our first, right, our first ever Board of Governors exam review course back in 2020. We launched the in fall. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. We also have Danny Freeman here from Texas Children's, and she is the chair for the advancement committee for our chapter. So I just want to start. Actually, I tried to update my slides really fast right before this, but apparently I missed one big thing right on this slide. I chuckle a little bit, but we are actually the largest chapter in all of ACHE's 76 chapters at the moment. We surpassed New York City last year. But the local chapter provides education, scholarships, mentoring, community service opportunities, which becomes important in just a bit, committee involvement, networking, and leadership opportunities. And our chapter, I'm proud to say, is also probably the most active and the most innovative in all of ACHE. So you have a very strong chapter right here in your backyard. The other thing your local chapters do is provide education at quite a discount compared to the same credits that you can get through ACHE National. So that's important to keep in mind as well. Our geographic area is shown here in Texas. So we have a 29 county area, which encompasses 30,000 square miles. Of course, most of our members are in Montgomery, Harris, Fort Bend, and the top part of Brazoria counties. Uh, of note, though, there are 7 chapters in Texas. The most in any other state like Florida is 4. And I'll tell you, Florida's geographic area is only 2 of our geographic area. So we have, as you are probably aware, Texas is quite huge. But you have chapters that are based in Austin, Dallas, Tyler, San Antonio, Lubbock, Amarillo, Midland, Odessa, and this giant purple, which used to be 2 separate chapters. And then a chapter in dark green, which is El Paso, and that actually spills into New Mexico. So here's our agenda. We're going to go through this pretty quickly, but we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A. And we have some experts, as you're aware, with Kevin, myself, and Danny on this call. But the value and benefits of your fellow, eligibility requirements, the application process, the exam, which is beefy but is not to be feared, preparation resources, and then what do you need to do once you have your fellow and maintaining that. So this just shows, some of the benefits and value of getting your fellow. It demonstrates your knowledge of 10 healthcare leadership competencies. So we'll go a little bit more into depth to that. And it signifies your commitment to the field. It strengthens your leadership value to your own organization, whether you work for MD Anderson, a consulting company, Texas Children's, Village MD, etc. You also are recognized for your achievement, and this is the gold standard, which you'll hear probably time and again. This is the gold standard for healthcare management, healthcare operations, and it comes with a board certification in healthcare management. And then I think the other 2 things, enjoy a level of interaction with other fellows because there's specific fellow events, particularly at events like Congress, which is coming up in a week and a half, and then potentially achieve greater personal satisfaction in your career. And a lot of this is set by ACHE National. So each of the chapters, each of the 76 chapters are independent of National. However, we all exist to support National's mission, vision, and values, and the fellow and your membership is all governed by ACHE National. So a lot of this material on the slides comes from ACHE National. So this first requirement, your eligibility changed about 4 or 5 years ago. It used to be that you had to have 3 years of tenure as a full ACHE member. Um, and now, once that change happened, it went down to 1 year of tenure. And then if you're a faculty associate, you're a full-time professor, you do have to convert at least 1 year of membership to full member to apply for your fellow. So some people have already done that and then they become faculty. If you already have it, you don't have to worry about reconverting. It's just something that's documented in your file. And then one thing to note, if you are a student associate, if you went back to school and you became a student associate, and you joined then, that does not count towards your tenure. So you do have to become a full member after or during your student membership. If you already have that before, again, that already counts. And then education requirements, you have to have minimally a master's. So a lot of people ask if I'm a physician and I never got a master's, if I'm a PhD and I never got a master's. If you have a terminal degree like those, you do not have to have a master's, but you have to have a minimum of a master's to be eligible to get your fellow. And then the healthcare management is probably one of the most confusing parts. And what I tell people is they do a case by case review if needed. Uh, a few years back, probably more on the order of 10 to 15 years, they really wanted you to be in the upper management, so a director level or higher, and that's how they determined executive level. Um, Now they've become a little more lenient, especially because we have consultants that don't necessarily manage people under them or have a job title that meets these sort of common examples. But they do give you some examples of positions that don't qualify. You do have to submit a job description and your current organizational chart and your resume, which helps them to determine if you're eligible or not. But generally speaking, you need 5 years of healthcare management experience, and you currently have an executive level position. And again, they'll do a case by case review for you if needed. You do need to have two references, and sometimes people say a letter of reference and a structured interview. These are really truly just two forms that you fill out, and they're actually identical, except one you check a box for structured interview and you answer, I think, one more question. But basically, you want to get your structured interview done from a current fellow. Uh, Danny, myself, Kevin, Cole, Kalita, many of us on the committee or that have been involved will do your structured interview with you. It takes literally 20 to, I think, 45 minutes max. And we provide the questions, or at least I do, I provide the questions in advance so you know what I'm going to ask you. We go through the questions, I fill out the form, and I hit submit. The second, the more traditional letter of reference, which is also the same form, you need from another fellow or a senior leader in your organization. Let me also say that when you start doing your fellow application, if you fill in your two references, it doesn't trigger anything. So you need to reach out to them to do these two pieces. I've kind of harped on them for year after year. Like that should be something easy to set up to trigger an email to that reference and have them triggered to help set up your structured interview and to do your letter of reference, but that has not been fixed at this point. Um, and the other note, well, I think that's about it for those. We're going to go in to the structured interview question. So this is what I provide in an email ahead of meeting with somebody to do their structured interview. I ask for a resume, and then I give them the questions in advance. And you can see here kind of what the questions are like. The number 10, I think, is kind of important because we have to document that you have the 5 years of healthcare management and executive level position. But some of the other things are things that you have to do a little bit of research to find, like the Council of Regents and the Board of Governors question, and also the ACHE Code of Ethics. For continuing education, so this is also something that's caused a little bit of confusion lately because there were big changes that happened January 1st, 2024. So there are 36 hours of continuing education credits that are required within 3 years. There's always a 3-year look back for the application. So you have 3 years to generate that level of credits and then apply, and then you're good for 2 years to take the exam. So let me break this down for you. You have to do a minimum of 12 ACHE face-to-face is what we used to call them. They're now called in-person credits. And before you could do up to 24 qualified credits, which are now called qualifying, and now the max is 12. So the best credit, the most important, you can think about this as a pyramid, is the in-person credit. So you need 12 or more of those, and you can only do 12 of the qualifying. I'm going to go into those two in a little bit more detail in a minute. But they added a new type of credit called virtual interactive. It doesn't mean any webinar that you have where you're doing virtual education counts for virtual interactive credits. It has to have gone through and be done in partnership with ACHE National. So it should say on the opportunity. So if you go to the registration, it should say virtual interactive 1.5 hours credit, ACHE credit or ACHE virtual interactive credit. So you can get 12 or more of those also, but you have to have a minimum again of those 12 in-person credits. So I hope this kind of makes sense. Hopefully, as you see these terms more often, it will help, kind of hammer home those points. So the face-to-face, which we refer to as formerly known as F2F, the in-person hours. So I'm going to go into a couple of examples of when and where you can get those coming up through our chapter in National. But you can substitute. So if you get 24 of those and you have 12 of the qualifying hours, you're done. That's 36, right? If you get a combination of these three, as long as you adhere to the specifics around minimum of 12 in person and a maximum of 12 qualifying, you can do a mix of virtual interactive and in person, or do all in person and not even worry about virtual interactive. I will tell you, we are setting up a minimum of 5 times 1.5 hours of virtual interactive sessions this year alone. We'll have our first one in April. Last year we did our first one in February, but we got a little bit of a late start this year. So on paper right now, we'll do one in April, July, September, October, and December. So that's our breakdown. Each one is an hour and a half of virtual interactive credits. You can also go to nationals. National has a few of those each year, or other chapters. Other chapters also offer these as well. So this just shows in a different schematic, trying to tell you here's what you really have to know. Again, minimum of 12 hours in person, a maximum of 12 hours qualifying, and a mix of the rest being virtual interactive or in person. So let me talk a little bit about qualifying. Qualifying is the easiest to get. So if you are doing professional development or you're going to a healthcare management type conference, those are hours that you can self, and I'll also say qualifying is the only one that you have to worry about self-reporting at ache.org once you've logged in. But that one, if you're going to, say, a HIMSS conference or a IHI conference or a Society for Healthcare Improvement, those should count as your qualifying credits, and they're easy to get because you can only get 12, and that's pretty straightforward. We also have other webinars during the year that could count for qualifying. We have other events during the year that can count for qualifying. So if you need those, just remember that's the easiest one to get. It should be the cheapest, the easiest. And again, just remember the max number is 12 hours. So if we talk just about in-person education opportunities coming up, Congress is here again this year for the second year in a row. You can get 12 hours or up to 18 hours at that conference, which spans Sunday night. It really kicks off, or convocation on Sunday. You're when you get your fellow. There's people in our chapter that will walk and do their ceremony on Sunday the 1st. And then the main days are Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So the second, third, and fourth. If you're military or VA, then on the 5th they do a partial day of military and DoD, so federal healthcare. So you can get 12 or 18 credits really for that event. We also will have a 1.5 hour uh, in-person credits on May the 7th. That will be up on our website shortly. You can get up to 6 hours in person at our mini conference, which will be likely on August 20th at Texas Women's. And I'll say that one is probably the most affordable to pick up 6 credits because it's around a little over $100. You get a breakfast, a lunch, and 6.0 credits in person ACHE. So that's likely going to be your cheapest option. Another really economical option is a day and 2/3, which will be November 5th and 6th, which is our annual Healthcare Leadership Conference our chapter runs, where you can get up to 12. And last year, early bird registration was 650. You can compare that to the Congress, where you're going to pay 1,800 or more, and it's spread over more days, and typically it's not in Houston. So then you have travel and food and etc. I will tell you that we give out more, or we provide more opportunities for um, in-person credits than any other chapter. So we're offering this year alone 19 and a half in-person credits. That means each chapter can offer up to 12. Then they have to pay more money to national to offer more. So we're paying national to provide an additional 7.5 in-person credits this year alone. So qualifying, we have a joint event that we've run for 4 years with a couple other groups. And the next one will be on June 11th. And then many other events will fill this type of credit. So if we have a webinar and it does not say virtual interactive, that's going to be a qualifying credit. And we'll try to point that out, but you just have to remember those are self-reported. And if you need any help with that, just reach out to any of us. Then there's volunteer activities. So you need to perform in that 3-year look back at least 4 volunteer activities, 2 of which need to be community or civic, and 2 of which need to be healthcare related. So we get the question of which is which, right? So if you do a heart walk or a boot walk or the climb for life, so some of these things that raise money for charities that go directly towards research or healthcare, those count for healthcare related. If you go to the food bank, you do kids meals, you do Meals on Wheels. Those are civic related or community. We provide now almost, I think the last 3 years, we've done 17, 20, and probably about 19. So almost 20 events every year. That means every month we're doing 1 to 2 community um, service opportunities. So you should be able to get these right here in your backyard, if not through your own organizations or through your faith-based groups or through your schools. There's a lot of opportunities to get these. Also mention if you donate blood, they count that as a healthcare related um, volunteer service. So if you do a blood donation to Gulf Coast Community Blood Center or at MD Anderson or at another hospital, that counts as one of your healthcare related events. If you help coordinate a blood drive, that also would count. So when you log in, particularly if you've started your application, you should see a drop-down menu. So you go in to ache.org, you put in your name, your email and login, you hit, I'm not a robot. And then you can go to the upper right-hand corner where it says My ACHE, and there's a drop-down menu of a lot of different things. One is your fellow progress. I think they've actually moved that to the main screen, so you can just scroll down. But you should see things like your membership, And once things are checked off, you'll get a nice green check mark on the right-hand side. Advanced degree, so this says documents required. You have to make sure you upload what they require for that. Your current position, again, this is where your org chart, position description and resume need to be uploaded. 5 years of healthcare management comes from that same packet. Then your references, like I talked about, you can add your reference names here, but again, that does not trigger an email to your references to do anything. So you do have to reach out. And then how are you doing on your continuing ed? This will give you a breakdown. How many do you have of in-person versus virtual interactive versus qualifying? If you want a more detailed breakdown, you can go to My ACHE and then go to My Education Credits to see that. And then have you submitted, again, volunteer activities are also self-submitted, just like qualifying credits. Have you submitted for volunteer activities and have they reviewed them? If you see that most of this or all the stuff has been submitted, but they haven't reviewed, you can also call ACHE National and ask them to do a fellow review for you for your fellow application checklist. And then all of these should turn green within usually 3 to 5 business days. And then they'll give you your code, your exam authorization code. Now that's changed a little bit too. When I took it back in 20, date myself a little bit here, I think I took my exam in 2013. In 2013, you could have all of your requirements done except for your 5 years of management and still take the exam, and then you just waited to time out. So you could have all this done except for this line here and then pass the exam or take the exam, pass the exam, and then wait. So I basically took my exam at year 4, I think, and I had to wait another year and a half to then fully get conferred a fellow. That's no longer the case. Now you have to have all of your requirements done and all of these checked off, and then they'll give you the exam code to schedule and take your exam. So the application process, you want to go to either you can even just do a Google search of FACHE, American College of Healthcare Executives, and you'll get to this page. But you want to start or continue your application. And on the drop down menu on the right hand side under My ACHE, you want to look for this apply for FACHE, which is just over 2/3 of the way down the list. And also you can see here my education credit, which I was just talking about to look at more detail about your breakdown of your education credits. Um, I think those are the important ones. But you want to make sure you meet your eligibility requirements. And again, we can go through specific cases and help you with that, but also some of the things will have to be determined on a case-by-case basis by national. You submit your completed application with the $250 application fee. ACHE then will confirm completion of the requirements and then authorize you to sit for the Board of Governor exam. And then you have 2 years to take and pass the exam before you have to, say, reapply. And again, if it's stuck on you've submitted your application, you've paid your fee, but it still doesn't have all check marks, then my advice is to call ACHE National and say, please, can you make sure my fellow application is reviewed? I'd like to schedule my exam. And then that will move it back to the top of the pile. Once you have your exam code, you would schedule your exam, which is at Pearson View. Um, what I've been a proponent of, and Danny too, is pick a date, like in the future. So, do you need 3 months to study, 4 months to study, 6 months to study? Pick that date, schedule the exam, and then work towards that date. If you have to bump it, you can do so, but that gets your exam date secured, and then you can work towards that date. The other thing to note is Pearson is a testing center for all kinds of stuff. Professional engineer, CPA, quality, CPHQ. I mean, they're testing for all kinds of stuff and all kinds of disciplines. So those seats will fill up, especially as you get towards the end of the year and people have that as a goal for the year or one of their metrics for their, review. with their organization. So schedule your exam when you get that code and work towards that date. There's also an annual fee waiver campaign. So every March, on March 1st through June 30th, they'll waive, you have to apply, you have to tell them, I think. They'll waive the $225 exam fee if you have your full application submitted and you meet your eligibility requirements, um, and you've paid your fee. So if all that's done in that window, then you should not have to pay for the exam the first attempt. So this is a huge way to save some money, but it has to fit that window. I had somebody that just missed the window by like 3 days, and they did not let her take the exam for free. They made her still pay. So the exam itself, and Kevin and Danny can give us some additional insight, but it's 230 multiple choice questions. 200 of those are scored. 30 of those are pilot questions, like test questions that they're seeing how people answer for future incorporation in the exam or to not incorporate in the exam. So 30 you take and you do, but they're not scored, so it doesn't count for or against you. The exam itself covers 10 different knowledge areas or domains, and you have 6 hours to complete this exam. So some people, take less time, some people take more time, but you take it at your own pace. With our course, we give you two practice exams so you can kind of see how the questions are structured. You can see how long it would take you to do that. So it gives you a little bit of an edge over people that don't have any practice exams, but we give those as part of our exam review course. This is also all electronic. It used to be a, fill in the circles kind of exam. So you can mark questions as you go. You can say, yeah, this one's good. I don't need to come back to it. I know that answer. Or I want to come back to this one. I'm not sure. Or skip that and we'll come back to it. So you can really start categorizing questions as you go and then come back to them. I will say a lot of times the advice is go with your gut. So if your gut is answer A and you come back and you're kind of waffling on it, if you don't clearly feel like another answer is a better answer, then do not change it. The other thing to note about this exam is you have to take it from the vantage point or from the point of view of a community hospital CEO. And sometimes the questions have multiple correct answers, meaning at the base, each of those answers could be correct. However, your challenge in those situations is to pick the best answer from a community hospital CEO standpoint. So I'll tell you, when I took the exam, I worked for the VA and I took the practice exam and I said, this is how the VA does it. This is how the VA does it. This is how the VA does it. And then I scored myself and I said, oh, that one's wrong. That one's wrong. That one's wrong. Because I was taking it from the vantage point of how my organization did it, not from a community hospital CEO. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And we talk about that in our course. So this slide's just about how do they get the exam content, right? They add in these new questions that are test questions in those 30 questions that are not scored against you. And basically that's done every 5 years. So this exam shifts over time slowly, but on a 5 year sliding scale. And they do have test writers, that are experts in an area, and they write test questions, and then they test the test questions as those ones that aren't scored, and then they decide to incorporate them in a future exam or not. And part of this comes from the job analysis survey, which they are going to do next in 2027. So this shows your 10 areas of knowledge for the Board of Governors exam. Healthcare, management and leadership, finance, which was my hardest section, human resources, laws and regulations, quality and performance improvement, business, healthcare tech and information management, professionalism and ethics, governance and organizational structure. And what you'll note in the two columns is they're not equivalently broken down. either in percentage or on number of questions. If it was equivalent, each one would be 10%, right? 10 sections, 10%. But there's governance is, for example, only 6%, whereas healthcare is 15%. And then you can see how many questions of the 200 are allocated to each of those areas. For our exam review course, we go through each week, we're doing a separate area of the test. So basically, we're doing 2 hours on healthcare, then we're going to do 2 hours on management and leadership, then 2 hours on finance, then 2 hours on HR. A couple of them are a little bit shorter. I think professionalism and ethics is a shorter session because the material is actually a little bit maybe more straightforward and there's less questions on that area. We also bring in some recent test takers to tell you about their tips and tricks. And I could talk about my experience, but my experience was 2013, right? So that's not going to be that helpful to you except in general terms. So we want somebody that's taken the exam in the last 6 months and they can tell you exactly how it was for them and maybe some cutting edge kind of tips and tricks. So everybody asks, what percent is pass? Well, for years and years, this was the closest guarded secret in ACHE, meaning they did not share this information. About 2 years ago, they started opening up and they said for first-time test takers, the pass rate is around 69%, just under 70% for first-time test takers. And the passing score overall, and again, this is approximately, is a 65%. Now, I will tell you, you can fail a section and maybe multiple sections, but not a lot of them, right? And still pass the exam because it's a composite score. You do not have to pass each of the 10 areas. You have to pass the composite exam. That's important because I struggled on finance. I had not taken healthcare finance prior to taking the exam. I studied the most for healthcare finance and I did the worst in healthcare finance, but I still passed with my composite score. If you do happen to fail, you can take again. You just have to wait 60 days in between your attempts. And we can go through an example I think Danny can share. We have a person that took, multiple attempts to pass. They knew the material, they just did not do well on standardized tests. They were coached and they passed, and they're happy to share their experience on taking that. If you pass, when you pass, you need to pass by the end of the year to participate in the next year's convocation ceremony. So that's when you are conferred your fellow, and that's done at Congress every year, usually the Sunday that kicks off Congress. Congress really is officially the Monday morning with their keynote, but convocation is almost always Sunday afternoon. So, for example, for this year, if you pass any time between now and December 31st, you can participate in the 2027 convocation ceremony, which will be in Nashville next year. We also do our own pinning ceremony for our members at our awards banquet in January, usually the last Friday of January. So that's always fun to get pinned by board members, sometimes members of your own organization. And it's a mini convocation as part of our overall annual awards look back for the previous year. So the next big area is preparation resources. There are some good resources online. So both of these links are on the national site, and you can find them just by Googling FACHE and resources and exam and American College of Healthcare Executives. But there's a content outline which breaks down more in depth of what healthcare breaks down into in the exam. There's an executive competencies assessment tool. And then, kind of the third big point is develop a plan. How do you take tests the best? Do you do well making your own note sheet, your own notes cards? Do you do best studying in a group? Um, you need to figure out what's best for you and then develop your plan. And again, working backwards from a date in mind is usually the best. So if you can set that date on the calendar, work backwards, and then take your exam. So my advice is to take a prep course. Our prep course is probably the most in-depth out of any chapter in all of ACHE. ACHE National has their own prep course. It is comprehensive as well. It does cost, I think, 5 times the cost of ours. We also do ours twice a year, and if you let us know when you pass, we give you $50 back, either as cash or as credit for another event, or you can even donate it back to the chapter, which some people do. But you want to take some kind of level setting to get you on the same page. And that is done in depth with our course. It's virtual. Every session is recorded. We encourage people to be there for at least 7 of the sessions to ask questions in person, and then we provide the 2 exam and all of the recordings for the semester. We do a spring course and a fall course. The spring course starts the 3rd week of March, so coming up after Congress. And again, they run for 10 or 11 weeks, depending on if we get cancellations or we go and we add some additional session on general uh, exam taking strategies, some coaching, etc. So we've done a couple that are 11 weeks, but we're going to do at least 10 weeks for all of the content. Most people, you want to allow 3 to 6 months. If you go too long, what happens sometimes is it gets lost, and then life happens, and you go on, and then all of a sudden you're at that end of the 2 year period of authorization. You either have to cram it in, or you have to, plead with National to get extension, or you end up paying, money again and reapplying, which is not ideal. So again, look 3 to 6 months, maybe 9 months at most. Figure out your study style, review your knowledge areas, and the questions to note are job related and experience based. So experience does count for this exam. I was relatively fresh in healthcare, had not taken my master's in healthcare management yet, but I had a higher level degree. So it isn't contingent on experience, but that does help. And then I guess this is another miss for me. Our upcoming course, Danny can correct me, it's March 24th, I believe, and ends at the end of May. Again, you can claim up to 20 qualifying education credits. So these are self-reported again. They'll only recognize a max of 12, but again, this course is 20 hours, so you can claim up to 20 hours. What you get out of this course is we cover all 10 knowledge areas. We talk about test taking strategies. We talk through some sample test questions, usually as part of every session, and we give you a good understanding of the exam content and how it is structured. You can also get exam study sets. So there's 2 versions of these at National, or you can look on Amazon. With your ACHE membership, you get a discount. I believe it's 10% off these books or this book set. Um, we are now we've moved from the blue edition of the Well-Managed Healthcare Organization to the white edition. So there's a new edition of this, just came out. I took it and it was the green edition, so 2 editions back. But the probably about 70, I would estimate 75% of the material comes out of that book, the Well-Managed Healthcare Organization. So that is a key resource. If you pick one book out of the 4, that's the book to pick. The other 3 are really specific to subsets in our 10 knowledge areas. So you have a financial management book for that finance section. You have an HR book for the HR section, and you have an IT book for IT section. There's also a version of this with flashcards. So you can get the bundle of 4 books. You can get 1 book. You can get 2 books. You can get 3 books. You can get all 4 books with flashcards, or you can order the flashcards separately. I will tell you, flashcards, this set did not exist when I took the exam. I think this is very helpful. I think the good thing about this is it gives you some level setting on terminology and being able to know really what terminology means for each of these things in reference to the exam. So these are 415 cards. It's $140 for that set, and they're color coded. We have some sets and some books that we're able to loan out from the chapter. The one issue is people take them for extended time before, giving them back. So sometimes they're all out. And there's the study bundle if you get the 4 books and the flashcards. Um, and then moving on to recertification. So once you get your fellow, what do you have to do to maintain it? So certification is valid for 3 years. So once you get it, you have 3 year period before you have to recertify. To recertify, it's quite a bit simpler. You do have to do your 36 hours of continuing education credits with the same breakdown. You have your minimum and maximum for in-person and qualifying, but you can do a mix of in-person and virtual for the rest of those, 12 credits. And then you have to participate in 2 healthcare and 2 community or civic community service activities since you earned your fellow. So every 3 years, you do your 36 credits and your 2 healthcare, and you just hit submit and you pay your fee, and boom, you get recertified. And I tell people, don't ever let your membership lapse or your credits lapse or your certification lapse because you know what the penalty is? You have to take the damn exam again. And I don't wish that on anyone. It is a beefy exam. It is the second hardest exam I've ever done. The first being a research PhD thesis defense. So it's a big deal. So once you get it, hold on to that and maintain it. And the way to do it economically is do it through your local chapter. So your option two, if you don't do your credits and your recertification, you have to retake and pass the Board of Governors exam. And guess what? It's more expensive that way. Instead of being 225, it's 350. You still have to do your 2 healthcare and community or civic community service events. And then after that, you pay your normal $200 recertification every 3 years. So if you let it elapse, you're going to pay more money and it's going to be a lot more arduous. So don't do that. So I'm about to pause and allow Danny and Kevin to fill in where I missed and Danny to add her 2 cents as well. But I just want to pause and say congratulations on taking this step to your journey to becoming a fellow. This again is the gold standard in certification in healthcare management or healthcare operations. This is a big deal. And when you get it, you should make it a big deal. A big deal with your organization, a big deal on LinkedIn, a big deal with your family. It really truly is a big deal. You are then board certified, just like a doctor is board certified or anesthesiologist is board certified. You are board certified in healthcare management after passing that exam. So, one thing that you can do if you do have more questions after this is you can call the customer service phone number. You can also, they have this new thing, a concierge appointment, specifically geared toward questions on your fellow, whether that's questions for your healthcare management experience, your healthcare leadership. If you have other questions on your checklist that we can't answer, then you can set up that appointment. I think they're in 15-minute blocks, but that's been a huge benefit to our membership to have that expert review time for your fellow application. And then I put our LinkedIn's here. So Kevin, myself, and Danny, and our emails, which you should also have at least, actually, I think all three of them were on the invite. But if you need them, they're here as well. And this is going to be posted on the website after I do a little bit of light editing. But now we can stop and open it up to questions. I'm going to give Kevin a chance. I ended up talking the whole time, but Kevin, what did I miss?
I would have to say that if you missed anything, then we should have allocated 2 hours for this session. Uh, you definitely did a very thorough job, and every time I thought to make a point, you made it for me. So I didn't even need to interject. Great job. But happy to take questions. I told Mark and Danny before we started this that like it, my real job, my real role here was to show up and look beautiful. And so I hope that I'm doing that well. And so happy to take any questions from this point forward.
And Danny. How about you, having taken the exam most recently out of the three of us? Did we miss anything on the overview and scope and breakdown?
No, I feel it was really comprehensive. And the one thing that I will say is this is a good opportunity for people to be a little bit vulnerable, and like ask for help. Anybody who's a fellow, and this was what my barrier was when I was trying to find references, is I would say like, oh shit, I don't know any fellows. Like
Mm.
I don't know anybody. This is going to be so hard to find my references. If people have FACHE after their name, they're in your corner. They want you to get this just as bad as you do. So don't feel shy in reaching out. Don't feel shy about asking for help. It is a very difficult exam. But I think, and Mark doesn't even pay me to say this, I think our chapter does a really great job of providing resources to people. Um, and with the upcoming BOG exam review course, of which Kevin is actually one of our faculty members. And like spoiler alert, he's like one of the favorite faculty because his session is so great and informative. Um, we have practice tests that we give out after attending those. We have study guides. We can connect you with people. But we've had people come say, "Hey, I failed the first time. I need help." And we're experts in doing that. So please make sure you reach out. If you fit those requirements, you're ready, and we'll help you get there.
Yeah, both all of us have done fellow structured interviews or reference letters. So if you need those, we're here as well as other members of our committee and other recent or not even recent other fellows. So we'll get that part knocked out of the way so you don't have to worry about that.
And I will say this, one of the things that talked me into trying this, somebody told me, this is easy. You got this. You have all this information. You have all this knowledge in your head. You can do this. That was a lot. So please don't. So I would give, one real piece of advice. Don't approach it thinking that this is just a run-of-the-mill test that you can go based off of your current knowledge and pass. I don't think that that's what this is. This is definitely one that you need to study for. But like Danny has said, our chapter does the best possible job of preparing you to take this test. If you will take if you'll take what Mark has shared with you tonight, you'll take our study course that we offer and take a few months to go through um, the study materials and make sure that you're ready. I guarantee you'll pass this test, utilizing the tools that you have at your disposal. I am at best of average intelligence, and I passed on my very first attempt. So I know that you can do this, but just don't take it lightly, and you have to take it very seriously. It is a hard test, but don't let that scare you away either. I see somebody saying I'm a bad test taker. Yeah, me too. I am a terrible test taker. Um, I'm still desperately searching for some talent that I do have, but test taking certainly isn't it. And I was able to pass in the first time. So I have no question that you'll be able to do it if you approach it diligently. And take our study course. I'll say that at least 5 more times in this session, but take our study course. It is designed to help you succeed.
And Chantel,
That's
I don't mean to call you out with your comment, but that is something that we specifically address in our BOG prep course is making sure that when you are ready to walk into the testing center, you know what you're walking into. The test, you are allotted 6 hours to take it. And I remember taking the test when I took it, and I was not prepared for what I was going to see on the screen. To be honest, it's a little like a Windows 95 multiple choice test. Um, but we walk you through that. We have people who've taken the test multiple times and share what really pushed them, past that final ribbon to get their exam. And then we try to bring different perspectives to, like test taking strategies. So we've tried to be really comprehensive in it. But at the end of the day, you have one of the largest chapters in your corner, and we have people all over the country register for our prep exam or our prep course, excuse me. And we're in their corner too. It's a great opportunity at a lower cost than national, like Mark said, to get exposure to Board of Governors and what to expect. And like you said, we've all taken the test. And we want you to pass.
And this was another, we did not have a comprehensive review course when I prepped and took the exam. So we didn't have that. We didn't have the flashcards. Um, I think it's much easier to prep now than it was before. There's even a few questions you can find on things like Quizlet to practice. We heard today about somebody that's basically using AI to help prep her by having her go through different topic areas and work back and forth with the AI on things. So I think the tools are much better than they were at the time that I took it. Um, the other thing is this is, some people are like, well, I used to be able to just cram, a few days before and pass my midterm or my final. This is not the same. It's just too much information. And again, because there isn't one right answer, there's multiple right answers and you have to pick the best one. So, um, those are important notes really to keep in mind. I
Mary,
see a,
oh,
yeah, I see
sorry.
a question.
Yeah, about the 36 hours of education. You could have accumulated those in any of the 3 years prior to submitting your
Sure.
application. So
Yep.
just keep in mind that's a 3 year window, regardless of whether you're board certified or not. So if they're older than 3 years, they have probably dropped off. 1 year, they're certainly good. 2 years should give you motivation to go ahead and submit that application before they expire, but it's about 3 years. And Kevin, do you have advice for how long people should study or how long you studied for the exam? Do you remember?
I studied for 8 months, but I'm kind of stupid. I think 3 to 6 months is a good time frame because you can drag it out too much and you'll just get into this cycle of brain rot. Like Mark said, I didn't have the comprehensive study course. I didn't have flashcards. I made my own flashcards. Um, so if you utilize the resources that are available to you, I think 3 months is ample time. Because here's the truth: much of this information that is contained in the Board of Governors exam is information that you have at your disposal. You're doing this job every day. But I will reiterate what Mark said very well in the presentation. It isn't from your perspective when you take the test. You have to utilize the perspective that the test is written from. And you have to choose the answer that is the most correct because it is so easy to get caught into, oh, that makes sense. That's the right answer. No, read every answer, and we'll go over this in the prep course. Many of us who teach the course will tell you this in our sessions. Read every answer, analyze every answer to every question because the most correct answer is the one you want to choose, not just the first correct one you come to. I know, Mark, you covered that, but I think you'll need to hear that several times because it sort of goes against what we normally think about when taking tests.
And
I
we're talking about developing more of a specific session on test taking because sometimes there are, specific wording that you can rationalize if you get familiar with the pattern or the specific words to look for that will help you do better. I think that's something that, really we want to add to our repertoire to help everybody in our chapter and other chapters to really do better on this exam.
I remember when I was studying for the exam, I did it while I was on maternity leave, which was terrible in hindsight. But very in line with my personality. Um, and I think I studied for 12 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks, and about 3 to 4 hours a week. And I know myself as a test taker, which is very important for you to understand what your test taking style is. Like self-awareness is a good thing here. I'm a very good standardized test taker. So I knew how to study, and that's part of what Mark is saying is if that's maybe an area we could focus on, that's just as important as some of the content and knowing how you absorb the content and then replay the content when you go to perform or do the exam.
And I think, yeah, that's a great point, Denny. One thing I would add to that is the value of taking our prep course it, compared to the national one is that we have subject matter experts in each of the 10 domains who will not only regurgitate the information and the slides to you, but will utilize real life scenarios to talk through how to apply some of the subject matter. And if you're like me, where application is the best teacher, not information, uh, that will help you. And again, we come at this from so many different ways to try to help you to succeed that one of them will help you.
We did have two, I mean, at least this is a little bit of anecdotal evidence, but we had at least two people take both prep courses, and both of the people that came back, at least and shared that with us, one with the board that I report to, said that ours was better than nationals, which is a little bit shocking if they're charging, five to six times as much. But it makes me feel very proud of what, was developed in 2020. And then we've had a lot of opportunity over these years to tweak this and change things and, improve upon it. So it is a great resource. So I do encourage you all to take advantage of that. Danny, what else in terms of resources or fellow checklists or um, any of that stuff that we're missing here?
Well, I think
Or
we've covered
reiterate.
this. What I would really encourage everyone on here to do is to reach out to one of us. If you don't feel comfortable like on the call, I talk to people every single day through ACHE. And I can help connect you with somebody, or I can be a sounding board, or you can vent or lament. But ACHE is not that big, which is great because you always have somebody in your corner. So let us help you connect, or lean in. Let us hear what you have to say and what you're thinking. I shared my email because I want you to email me. I want to help. Otherwise, I wouldn't be volunteering my time to do this for one of the largest chapters. Well, the largest chapter in the country. So please take advantage of that resource. I made a homemade study guide. I'm happy to share it with you. I can connect you with people. And I think Kevin and Mark would say the exact same thing.
Yeah,
So,
I did a review today with a person. So we were on Zoom. They logged into their account. They showed me their credits. We mapped out exactly uh, which credits they needed, the cheapest way to do it, and basically in the next 3 to 4 months, she'll have all the credits she needs to move on in the process. So we can do that as well. Go through the checklist, go through your credits, and really, map that out with you.
So, Mark, I had a question. On the application that you were showing earlier that had the green check marks, how
hmm
did you navigate to that? Because, I'm only, pending a few hours, but I have no check marks.
Okay. Yeah, if you go all the way to the right under my ACHE, go down to FACHE, and
Uh-huh.
there's no check marks yet. It may take you having to, formally initiate the fellow application.
Okay.
Uh, you can either, do that concierge appointment and say, do I need to do anything to get these started to review? Sometimes some of the items they don't review until you either alert them or everything's done. So I wouldn't be nervous if there aren't check marks and you do have some of the stuff submitted. I think you just have to start triggering them to review it and basically signing off on them,
Okay.
which typically is the initiation of the fellowship or telling them, hey, all this stuff is there. And typically paying that fee, I think, is the big trigger.
Thank you.
Yeah. Last call for questions. It's a quiet group tonight. All right. Well, you have our contact information. Ray, you have a question?
Yeah, Mark, just one quick question about like the timeline. So if today is the first day when I've intentionally started thinking about this whole process,
Yeah.
do you think just if we, assuming I have a couple of those check boxes marked already, is like by the end of the year, is that a realistic timeline to get all this done?
Yeah, absolutely. With the credits, I think, like I said, the 12 qualifying is so easy, so that should be, pretty much done or easy to get. And then, the harder other credits we can get within the year, really. And you should have a few from probably here and there anyway. So that leaves the prep course and the studying. And I think, that's all manageable
And as long
within
as
the
you have a 1 year active membership, so just keep in mind that your membership at least has to be 1 year. But if that is satisfied, Ray, you and I might be best friends because I'm gonna come knocking.
and,
I'm
and
great.
Danny did not say this, but she came into the board strategy meeting this January, and she said, "We're gonna set a big old hairy goal, a BHAG, right?" So we've never had more than I think our max ever is in the 30s of fellows, but we have committed, the board has committed to support a goal of 52 new fellows in 2026 alone.
Wow.
So we are taking a very, very active approach to reaching out. You'll see lots of emails over this year, uh, pinging people, poking people, asking what could we do to help you? What resources do you need? What is holding you back, and what, roadblocks can we bulldoze out of your path? So it's going to be a super exciting year for this. Our last big, hairy, audacious goal was 2 years ago when we sought to reach 2,000 members, along with unseating New York, which had never been unseated as the largest chapter in all of ACHE. It took
Wow.
us slightly longer than that, but we got there. So this goal is clearly within our reach. We have a huge pipeline that we've been building the last few years. Y'all might be part of that, breaking records this year and or next year. So get excited for this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. That's reassuring. Thank you so much. This was really, really instructive.
In my defense, Mark, usually people say, I just needed someone to push me.
True.
Like I'm a very good pusher.
And yeah, we will have this recording to review. So I see that that's one question. And for I'm gonna say your name wrong. Ichi? Ahichi?
FACHE. Thank you.
Ahechi.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you took it already, we can open up, the next course or spring or fall, and you can join that. We just ask, when people have already taken it, we say, make a donation to our scholarship fund. We're not going to recharge you to take the same thing,
Oh,
whatever compels you. But yeah, absolutely take it again, get refreshed, and we want to help you
thank
succeed.
you so much. We'll definitely make a donation. Y'all are so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll be in touch soon. Again, the review course starts March 24th-ish,
26.
after Congress. 26, I was close.
Yep.
And we'll run for 10 or 11 weeks. And then again, look for your credits. We can do a credit review with you. We can help do your fellow letters of reference or structured interview. And let's do this. Let's get it.